My name is Elena Vargas, and if you've ever felt invisible in your own family, you'll understand my story. I grew up in a household where appearances mattered more than feelings. My parents, Victor and Marissa, were the type who smiled in public and snapped in private. We weren't wealthy, but my father always acted like we were destined for prestige. My older brother, Daniel, was his pride and joy, athletic, charming, and supposedly the future of the Vargas name. My younger sister, Sophia, was my mother's little darling, beautiful, stylish, and adored by everyone. And then there was me, the middle child, the quiet one, the one who overthinks everything. I've always struggled with health problems. When I was 13, I started fainting in school. I'd get dizzy spells, splitting headaches, and a crushing fatigue that made simple things like climbing stairs feel like a marathon. Doctors ran tests, but the results were always inconclusive. My parents shrugged it off as nerves or laziness. I can still hear my mother's voice. Alina, you always make everything about you. Maybe if you stopped moping and did something productive, you wouldn't feel so tired. And my father, your brother trains 3 hours a day for soccer. Your sister practices piano for hours. What do you do, Alina? Sleep. You need discipline, not doctors. The dismissiveness cut deeper than any physical pain. Because deep down, I knew something was wrong. I wasn't lazy. I wasn't making it up. But when your own family doesn't believe you, you start doubting yourself. Still, I kept quiet. I didn't want to ruin the fragile peace of the household. I studied hard, tried to help around the house, and did everything I could to avoid conflict. But silence has a way of making you invisible. Family gatherings every Sunday. We had family dinners at my grandmother's house. Grandma Rosa was the only one who looked at me with kindness, though even she didn't always understand my struggles. She'd pat my hand and whisper, "You're delicate, Mia," just like I was when I was your age. Maybe you just need fresh air. But everyone else? Well, dinners were a performance. My father bragged about Daniel's soccer trophies. My mother boasted about Sophia's music recitals. And then the spotlight would turn to me. So Alina and Uncle would smirk, still tired all the time. "Maybe you should try yoga." And Aunt would laugh. Even Daniel and Sophia joined in, rolling their eyes whenever I excused myself early from the table because of fatigue. "Daniel, don't trip on your way to bed, sleeping beauty." "Sophia, maybe she's allergic to family gatherings." Laughter all around. I'd force a smile, excuse myself, and retreat to the bathroom where I'd lean against the sink, fighting tears. I'd tell myself, it's fine. They don't mean it. They don't understand. But deep down, the humiliation piled up like bricks on my chest. The breaking point builds as I grew older. The symptoms worsened. By the time I turned 24, I could barely hold a job because of my unpredictable health. Interviews went well, but once I started working, the constant dizziness, nausea, and fatigue made it impossible to keep up. Every resignation letter felt like proof of my family's accusations, that I was weak, unreliable, and a burden. But I wasn't just battling illness. I was battling shame. That's the cruelest part of being disbelieved. You start carrying guilt for something you didn't cause. The final straw came when my parents decided to host a grand family reunion, cousins, uncles, aunts, distant relatives, all under one roof. It was supposed to be a celebration of family strength and unity. For me, it was the stage where my humiliation would be broadcast louder than ever. I had no idea that this event, this dreaded gathering, would be the turning point of my life. The night everything would shatter, and everything would finally be revealed. The invitations were glossy, embossed with gold vines that curled around the words Vargas Family Reunion. My mother passed them out like she was handing people pieces of a dream. I stared at the one with my name on it and felt nothing but dread. The week before the reunion, the house turned into a stage. My father polished the silverware he only ever used to impress people. My mother rearranged the living room 3 times. Daniel lifted furniture and took frequent shirtless selfies to document the grind. And Sophia practiced her speech for the mini piano concert she planned to give after dinner. Every note floating through the house like a smug reminder that she was the daughter who sparkled. I tried to help. I did. I chopped vegetables until my wrists trembled. I folded napkins into little fans while my vision throbbed at the edges. Halfway through ironing the tablecloths, I had to sit down. My legs felt like they were packed with sand. My mother walked in just as I was catching my breath. She glanced at the power crease cloth hanging off the ironing board, then at me. "You see," she said softly, like pity dressed up as kindness, "we can't rely on you for the heavy lifting. Maybe you can handle the coat check when guests arrive." Something seeded. "I can still help," I said. "I just need a minute." "A minute turns into an hour with you." Her smile slid away. "Don't start. Please don't start this week." The code word for my illness, or what they called my act. The fictions I supposedly performed whenever responsibility crept too close to me. I swallowed and nodded. "I'll do the coat check." "Good girl." She patted my cheek, her nails tapping lightly like a warning. "Just try not to disappear when people are looking for you." I nodded again, and when she left, I pressed my palms to my eyes until the stars there exploded. The day of the reunion arrived bright and harsh. Even the sun felt like it was judging me. By noon, the rented marquee tent breathed in the backyard like a white lung. Strings of lights crisscrossed overhead. A hired bartender set up at the far end. Food simmered on every stove and counter. The doorbell began its relentless chiming. I tied my hair back and took my post by the entryway with a little notepad to keep track of the coats and handbags. People poured in ants with lipstick that left stains on your soul. Uncles with laughs that sounded like motors revving to idle. Cousins I hadn't seen in years who introduced themselves like they were celebrities returning from tour. "Alina," squealed my Aunt Letitia, air kissing each side of my face without touching it. "Still so pale. When are you going to get some color?" "I go outside," I said. "Do you?" Her smile thinned. "Must be at night." I tagged her sequin jacket and hid my flinch. "Sleeping Beauty." My cousin Marco gave me a quick, joking bow as he handed over his blazer. "You gonna nap through the party? Should we keep it down?" "Very funny," I said, because that was what we were all supposed to do, laugh along with our own minimization. By the time Grandma Rosa arrived, leaning on her cane and wearing a sky blue shawl, my hands were already shaking from the constant movement. She squeezed my fingers as she passed. "Don't stay in this hallway the whole time," she murmured. "You belong to the celebration, too." I nodded and told myself I would step into the backyard after the next wave. I told myself that every 3 minutes. From the other side of the house came the sound of my father's voice, grand and booming. "Welcome, welcome. Drinks are at the bar, and please wait until you try the asado. You'll leave writing letters of gratitude." I heard Daniel, always work in the crowd, laugh from the yard. "I'm telling you, Coach says another season like this, and the scouts will be at our door." My mother floated past the entryway with a tray of deviled eggs, glancing toward me. "You're doing fine," she said without stopping. "Try to smile more. People are asking about you, are they?" I wondered, forcing my lips up. "Or are you just embarrassed that I'm the first thing they see when they walk in?" A little after 4, the temperature in the house turned molasses thick. The hallways swelled with the humid breath of too many people. My head pulsed in time to the clinking glasses. The notepad slipped once, then again. I bent to retrieve a scarf from the floor, and the room dipped sharply, as if the house had nodded off and jolted awake. Whoa, a familiar voice, Sophia somewhere behind me. "Careful, Alina. The floor's very offensive today." A few people laughed. Heat flared up my neck. I stood and swallowed against the metallic taste rising in my mouth. "Just dizzy." "From what?" she asked sweetly. "Standing?" "Leave it," I muttered. "No, honestly." She stepped closer. Her perfume clean and expensive. "Why don't you go lay down before you, I don't know, sprain a yawn?" I could feel eyes gathering like storm clouds. I stared at the tiles. "I'm fine. Right?" She patted my arm twice. "Of course you are." Dinner was slated for 6, and by then, the backyard was an applause of voices. Long tables glowed under the strings of lights. The air smelled like char and cilantro and citrus. I made it outside at last and hovered near the edge of a conversation where 3 Cousins were arguing about the best team in La Liga. When I offered a comment, their nods felt theatrical. After a moment, they turned back toward each other like flowers tracking the sun. My father clinked his glass. Silence fell with the ease of practice. "Family," he said, spreading his arms wide. "Look at us. The Vargas line, growing, thriving, and together." He placed his hand on Daniel's shoulder. "To our champion, may your season be the best yet." And to Sophia, he turned to where she sat poised at a small keyboard, the kind hired for weddings. "May your music guide us tonight." He glanced in my direction, the briefest skim of recognition, and then away. "And to all of you who make us who we are." A chorus of salads rose up. I lifted my water because I didn't trust my hands with anything stronger. Sophia's performance began. Chopin, then Debussy, then a pop song spun into delicate sugar. The crowd glowed at her. My mother stood nearby, head tilted, lips parted, like she was hearing proof of her own virtue. When the food arrived, platters of carne asada, piles of corn, salad, and roasted vegetables, bowls of chimichurri, I took a small portion and sat at the end of one of the tables. Next to Grandma Rosa, she nudged my plate with her fork. "Eat, Mia," she said. "You look like you're fading." "I feel like it," I whispered back, tipping my head to hers. Across from us, Uncle Javier leaned in. "Alina," he said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes, "we were just talking about what do you call it? Your condition." His wife hid a smirk behind the rim of her wineglass. I stiffened. "There's no official name yet." "Ah," he nodded sagely. "So it's more like a habit." "Javier," Grandma warned. He lifted his hands. "I'm just saying, back in my day, being tired wasn't a disease. It was just life. Back in your day, people died of just life. I said before I could stop myself." The table went quiet. A breath of shock fluttered down its length. My father's voice broke in from 2 seats away, easy and amused. "Elena's got jokes tonight." He turned to his friends. "You know, she used to pretend to be sick to get out of chores, even as a kid. Some habits are hard to break." Laughter rolled out, not a wave so much as a ripple that didn't care what it washed over. I stared at my plate, the meat cooling to gray. I could feel Grandma's hand searching for mine under the table, patting twice. There, as if comfort could be administered like a sedative. "Dad," Daniel said, grinning, "remember when she fainted at my championship game? Halftime had to be extended because someone decided to play Sleeping Beauty on the sidelines." "Oh, God," Sophia groaned, delighted. "And the paramedics were like, 'She's fine.' And she was like, 'No, I'm dying.'" "I never said that," I managed. My voice sounded as if it were coming from under the table. "I said I couldn't feel my hands." "Drama," Sophia sang, shaking her head. "You should try out for something that pays." The cousin nearest me, I couldn't even remember his name, leaned in conspiratorially. "Have you tried vitamins?" he asked, genuinely. "My coworker had something like this, and when she started taking D, it totally fixed it." "Wow," I said, smiling too hard. "Imagine if it were that easy." "Well," my mother said brightly, "if you turned off the screens earlier and woke up with the rest of us, I'm sure you'd feel much better." "I do wake up with the rest of you," I said. "I just don't sleep." "Why not?" She set her fork down in full concerned mother performance mode. "Is something bothering you?" Besides being mocked, Alina, my father's voice was warning now, low, silky. "Don't ruin the mood." I blinked at him. "I'm not ruining anything." "Then smile," he said. "Be light." There it was, the family creed. Be light. Be light on us. Be light enough to carry. I sat up straighter. My palms were damp and cold. The edges of the world were darkening, a camera iris closing down. "Hey!" Daniel raised his glass in my direction. "To Alina, may your next nap be restful." The table roared. I felt something shift in me, a plate tectonic click. My eyes went hot and useless. Words scrambled at my throat. I stood up too fast. The ground surged. "Excuse me," I said, to the table, to the air, to myself. "Bathroom." Sophia trilled. "Do you need help finding it?" "It's that way." She pointed as if I were a guest in my own house. I turned every step a negotiation. People parted, then closed again, gossip knitting behind me. In the kitchen, I grabbed the counter with both hands and waited for the earth to forgive me. The tile felt like ice under my bare feet. Don't cry here. The command marched across my chest. Don't give them the scene they want. From the framed window over the sink, I could see the backyard tableau. Lights like little moons. Faces tilted toward each other, the shine of silverware. At the microphone my father had set up for speeches, he was laughing into the night as if nothing had happened at all. I wanted to leave to grab my bag and vanish into the dark, but my keys were upstairs and the stairs were a mountain. I took a breath and poured myself a glass of water. When I tried to raise it, my hand misread the instruction. The glass knocked against the counter and shattered. Water and diamonds flew across the floor. The room went silent and then full of footsteps at once. My mother materialized first, inner storm blossoming behind her eyes. "Alina," she hissed. "What on earth?" "I'm fine," I said, though my chest was tight and my ears were ringed with static. "I'm dizzy." "Of course you are," she said, a breath that smelled like lemon and disapproval. She turned to the guests crowding the doorway. "It's fine. Accidents happen. Daniel, get the broom. Alina, step aside before you slice your feet." I stepped back and the world did the opposite. The edges crashed in, black snow danced in front of me. And somewhere far away I heard my own voice say, "I can't." Then the lights went out. When I came back, everything was cotton. Sounds muted, faces blurred. I was sitting on a chair. Someone had moved me. Air scraped in and out of me like it had to fight for space. A circle of relatives hovered. Their expressions, a gallery, concern, irritation, morbid interest. "See?" A woman's voice said, "Aunt Letitia," wet with pity, panic attack. "It's not panic," I whispered, but the words were moths. "Let's not make a fuss." My father, kindly authoritarian. "She does this. She does this." The words echoed. Something inside me shrank away. Sophia crouched in front of me, phone angled as if she were about to document a rare species. "Hey," she said, sweetness varnished over glee. "Look at me." "No, look at me." Breath in, breath out. "Come on, we've practiced, right?" In 4-4, out 4-8, stop. I managed, because the counting made the room tighter somehow. "She likes the attention," Daniel said to someone. "Anyone? Remember the graduation party?" The dance. The barbecue last 4th of July. Always when the crowd hits peak. "Daniel." Grandma's voice cut through, thin but sharp. "Basta," he shrugged. "I'm just saying." My mother knelt and pressed the back of her hand to my forehead, a thermometer from another century. "No fever," she announced. "Probably dehydrated because someone forgets to take basic care of herself." "I drink water," I said. The sentence came out soft and small as if it had to pass through a sieve. "Sure," she said. "When it's mixed with sympathy." A few people chuckled. A few glanced away. The humiliations of a family, public and private, are a learned choreography. I watched it play out from the cheap seats of my own body. "I'm calling it," Daniel declared. He'd taken the microphone, because of course he had. "Quick toast before we eat dessert. To our sister Elena, may she someday build up a tolerance to daylight and dialogue." Laughter burst open, too loud, too relieved. I stared at him, at the silhouette of my brother against the strings of lights, and thought, I will remember this. Every syllable, every smirk. My chest hurt in that too deep way, as if grief had lodged a fist right under the sternum. Then a different voice slipped into the kitchen. Calm, grounded. "What happened here?" it asked. I blinked up to find a man in his late 30s, salt at his temples, a calm intelligence in his eyes. I recognized him belatedly. Dr. Adrian Cole, the new neighbor my parents had wanted to impress. Invited at the last minute through some networking ruse of my father's. I remembered the handshake at the door, brief, kind, before the hallway swallowed me again. "I think she fainted," someone offered. Again, Daniel added into the mic, rolling the word across his tongue like a marble. Dr. Cole's gaze flicked to him, then back to me. He crouched, not close enough to crowd, just enough to meet my eyeline. "Alina, right? Can I?" Check your pulse. I nodded, too tired to be embarrassed, and extended my wrist. His fingers were cool and steady. He counted silently, eyes on his watch. Then he tilted his head. Any chest tightness? Shortness of breath? Yes, I said. Do you feel like your heart is racing? I thought about it. It jumps, like a rabbit. He nodded. Do you get lightheaded when you stand up? Yes. How long? Years, I whispered. Behind us, my father laughed lightly. Doctor, you don't need to spend your night. Dr. Cole didn't look at him. Has anyone ever measured your heart rate and blood pressure lying down and then standing up? I shook my head. No? Has anyone ever mentioned POTS to you? What's that? I asked. Postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. He said, still calm, still focused on me. A form of dysautonomia. It can cause dizziness, fainting, fatigue, a whole constellation of symptoms, especially when standing. It's not uncommon in young women. It's real. The kitchen, previously a sphere of judgment, tilted. Real? The word burst like light. My mother snorted softly. With respect, doctor, we've been to many doctors. They all say she needs to manage stress and get more sleep. He finally glanced at her, not unkindly. That's a common misdiagnosis. I'm not saying this is definitely it, he added, turning back to me, but what you just described fits. If you'll allow me, I can do a quick orthostatic test. It won't be perfect here, but it'll give us a clue. My father's smile strained. Is this necessary? She's fine. I'm not, I said, surprising myself with the strength in my voice. Silence pooled. Dr. Cole nodded once, like a co-conspirator. If you're willing, Alina, he said gently, we'll have you lie flat for a few minutes, then stand and I'll check your heart rate at 1, 3, and 5 minutes. If your pulse jumps 30 beats or more without a blood pressure drop, that's suggestive. Suggestive of an excuse, Daniel muttered into the mic, but the joke died in the air. It didn't land this time. It fell right through. Grandma Rosa touched my shoulder. Do it, she whispered. Whatever it is, do it. And there in my parents' immaculate kitchen. On a rug my mother bragged about finding on sale. I lay down while guests gathered, while lights glittered. While humiliation finally maybe began to turn into something else. Dr. Cole looked at his watch. Rest, he said. For once, everyone else can wait. I closed my eyes. For the first time that night, I felt a hush that wasn't empty. It was expectancy, like the moment before the orchestra plays. And somewhere out in the backyard, the laughter thinned, and a different kind of attention took its place. This is the beginning, I thought. They mocked my illness, and now something is about to answer. I lay there on the rug, staring up at the ceiling light fixture as if it held all the answers I'd been denied for years. My body buzzed like a faulty wire, too weak, too light, and yet my chest still thumped with a nervous energy. Around me, the chatter of relatives had gone muted. The cruel laughter from earlier now felt like it was balancing on thin ice. Dr. Adrian Cole knelt beside me, his watch in hand. His voice was steady, like a rope being lowered down to someone trapped in a well. Okay, Alina, he said softly, just for me. Just breathe. We'll take this step by step. I'll check your pulse lying down. Ready? I nodded. He pressed his fingers against my wrist, his eyes flicking between me and his watch. 68 beats per minute, he announced calmly. That's perfectly normal for someone at rest. I heard my mother sigh loudly from somewhere behind him, her patience fraying like cheap fabric. Now, Alina, I want you to stand, Dr. Cole continued, ignoring the background noise. The thought of standing made my stomach twist. But I needed to prove something. Slowly, I pushed myself up, swaying slightly as the blood seemed to drain from my head. My knees wobbled and I gripped the edge of the counter for balance. Dr. Cole was already at my side. 1 minute, he said, checking my pulse again. 98. He raised an eyebrow. That's a 30-beat jump already. Murmurs rustled through the gathered relatives. 3 minutes, he continued, keeping track with his watch. He checked my wrist again, his expression tightening. 112. Another wave of whispers. 5 minutes, he said finally, and I was sweating, trembling, my vision swimming. He checked my pulse once more. 120. Gasps filled the room. Even those who had mocked me couldn't hide the shift in the atmosphere. The numbers spoke louder than my words ever had. Dr. Cole straightened and addressed the room, his tone professional but firm. This is not normal. A jump of over 30 beats upon standing is a hallmark of a condition called POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. It's a legitimate medical issue. And it explains exactly what Alina has been experiencing for years. The fainting, dizziness, fatigue, even the brain fog. I swallowed hard, tears burning the edges of my eyes. Finally, someone said it out loud. My father chuckled nervously, raising his hands like he was trying to keep control of the room. Doctor, with all respect, we've seen specialists before. They've all said nothing was wrong. Dr. Cole turned to him, his voice like steel under velvet. With all respect, Mr. Vargas, they were wrong. This is one of the most underdiagnosed conditions in young women. Too often it's dismissed as stress or laziness. I've seen it before. What Alina just displayed is classic POTS. The room froze. My relatives, who only minutes ago had laughed at me, now sat stunned, unsure whether to look at me or look away. Sophia, still standing near the keyboard, tilted her head and tried to force a laugh. So, what? You're saying my sister has some rare syndrome. Isn't it more likely she's just dramatic? Dr. Cole's eyes snapped to her. Did you not see what just happened? A heart rate jump of over 50 beats in 5 minutes. That's not drama. That's physiology. The blood drained from her face. Daniel folded his arms, still unwilling to surrender. But she's always been like this, always fainting or complaining. If it were real, wouldn't someone have figured it out sooner? Dr. Cole looked at him the way a teacher looks at a student who just asked the most foolish question in class. That's exactly the problem. Families dismiss symptoms. Doctors don't listen. People suffer in silence. Alina has been living with a debilitating condition, and instead of support, she's been mocked. Silence. Thick. Heavy. A silence that revealed guilt-like cracks in old plaster. My mother opened her mouth, but Dr. Cole cut her off before she could deliver another polished denial. Tell me, Mrs. Vargas, he said gently, how many times has Alina fainted? How many times has she complained of dizziness, exhaustion, or chest pain? She faltered. I don't know. She's always been delicate. Delicate, he repeated, the word dripping with irony. No, she's been ill. And you've ignored it. The shift was seismic. The relatives who had always followed my parents' lead now turned their gazes on them. Judgment reversed. The mocking smiles faded, replaced by uncertainty, even shame. I felt my breath catch. For once, I wasn't the problem. Dr. Cole crouched in front of me again, lowering his voice. You need a proper diagnosis. Tilt table testing, cardiology consult, possibly medication and lifestyle adjustments. This is manageable with treatment. You don't have to keep suffering alone. My throat closed up. No words came out, just a trembling nod. He gave me the smallest, most reassuring smile. You're not weak, Alina. You're sick. And there's a difference. Those words cracked something open inside me. Years of swallowed pain, of biting my tongue, of doubting my own reality, all of it broke free. I pressed my hand against my mouth, but the sobs came anyway, shaking, unstoppable. Grandma Rosa wrapped her arms around me, her voice fierce despite her age. I told you, she hissed to the others. I told you she wasn't pretending. The silence that followed wasn't just silence. It was exposure. It was the moment a curtain rips and everyone sees the stage for what it is. I lifted my head, my eyes burning, and looked at my family, at my parents, at Daniel, at Sophia. For the first time in my life, they looked small. And in that moment, I realized the humiliation I had carried for years was no longer mine to hold. It was theirs. And this was only the beginning. The air in that kitchen was thick, like everyone was holding their breath. For years, the weight of humiliation had sat on my chest. But now, for the first time, it wasn't mine to bear. It was theirs. Dr. Cole had given me something I had begged for my whole life: proof. My family's mockery hung heavy in the air, replaying in every guest's memory. The toasts, the laughter, the insults disguised as jokes. And now, with just a few measured words, the truth had crushed all of it. I wiped my tears with the back of my hand, shaky but determined. I pushed myself to my feet, still wobbly, but standing taller than I ever had before. "Enough," I said, my voice trembling at first, then stronger. "Enough pretending, enough excuses, enough jokes. You've laughed at me my whole life, called me weak, dramatic, lazy. But guess what? I'm sick. I've been sick this whole time. And every single one of you decided it was easier to mock me than to believe me." The room went silent. Forks froze midair. The cousins, who had chuckled earlier, stared down at their plates, suddenly fascinated by the food. Daniel leaned back in his chair, still smirking, though less certain now. "Come on, Alina. Don't make this bigger than it is. You've fainted a little, that's all." I snapped my gaze to him, and the years of swallowed words rose like fire in my throat. "You humiliated me at your soccer games, at parties, even just now in front of everyone. You've made me the family joke for as long as I can remember. Do you have any idea what it's like to doubt yourself every single day because your own brother tells you you're lying?" For once, Daniel's mouth opened, but nothing came out. His smirk collapsed into something nervous, something cornered. "And you," I turned to Sophia, my voice sharpening. "Miss Perfect. Every recital, every performance, every dinner, you used me as a punchline. You mocked me when I could barely stand, when I could barely breathe. You pointed at me like I was a circus act. Was it fun? Did it make you feel more talented, more important?" Sophia flushed crimson, shrinking back from the eyes now drilling into her. I shifted to my parents. My mother's lips were tight, her face pale. My father's jaw was locked in that fake, dignified calm he used when the neighbors were watching. "You were supposed to protect me," I said, my voice breaking. "You were supposed to believe me. Instead, you told everyone I was lazy. You told me it was all in my head. Do you know what that does to a person? To live with pain and then be told it doesn't exist? To be laughed at when you're begging for help." The words poured out, unstoppable now, years of silence erupting into sound. "I've spent my whole life feeling worthless because of you. I've lost jobs, friends, opportunities, and I still kept quiet because I didn't want to embarrass you. I thought if I stayed silent long enough, maybe you'd finally see me. But tonight? Tonight the doctor saw me before my own family ever did." Dr. Cole shifted slightly, like he was giving me the space I needed, the authority that had always been stolen from me. "And now?" I said, my chest heaving. "Now everyone sees. Every guest here knows the truth. I wasn't lazy. I wasn't dramatic. I was sick. And you mocked me for it. That's shame. It's not mine anymore. It's yours." The silence was deafening. Faces around the table twisted with unease, not at me, but at them, at my parents, my siblings, the ones who had led the cruelty. Grandma Rosa's voice broke the stillness. "She's right," she said firmly, her cane tapping the floor like a gavel. "I warned you. I told you she wasn't pretending. You should be ashamed, all of you." The judgment rippled through the room. The relatives who had once chuckled nervously now avoided my parents' eyes. Some shook their heads. Others whispered, the kind of whispers that spread like wildfire long after the night is over. My father finally spoke, his voice low and brittle. "Alina, this isn't the place. This is exactly the place." I cut him off. "You humiliated me in front of everyone for years. Tonight, you don't get to hide behind silence. Tonight, they'll remember what you did and what you refused to see." His face turned a dark shade I'd only ever seen when he was truly cornered. My mother reached for her wineglass, her hand trembling, but didn't speak. Daniel muttered, "This is ridiculous." But no one laughed with him this time. The joke had finally died. Sophia tried to say something I didn't mean, but her voice cracked and fell flat. And me. For the first time, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel invisible. I felt powerful. My voice filled the air, and no one could take it from me. I turned back to Dr. Cole, who gave me a nod, subtle, supportive. Then I faced the crowd one last time. "You'll go home tonight and talk about this, I'm sure," I said. "Steady now. But I want you to remember one thing. You mocked me for something I couldn't control. You turned my pain into entertainment. And now the truth is out. You don't get to laugh anymore." With that, I stepped away from the table, away from the stage they built out of my suffering. Every eye followed me, but for once, it wasn't in pity or mockery. It was respect, maybe even fear. Because the joke wasn't on me anymore. It was on them. That night, when the last guests shuffled out under the string lights, the house felt hollow. The laughter that once drowned me out had vanished, leaving only an uneasy quiet. My parents lingered in the kitchen, whispering sharp words to each other while Daniel scrolled on his phone, pretending none of it touched him. Sophia stayed upstairs, her door slammed shut, and me. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the shadows stretching across my floor, my heart still fluttering in uneven bursts. But this time I wasn't afraid of the rhythm. This time I felt lighter. For years I thought silence was survival. That if I swallowed my truth, I'd keep the family peace. That if I stayed small, maybe someone would notice me out of pity. But all that silence did was cage me while everyone else learned to use me as their entertainment. Tonight broke that cage. I replayed Dr. Cole's words in my head. "You're not weak. You're sick. And there's a difference." It was such a simple sentence. Yet it unraveled years of lies I had carried. Lies my own family had stitched into me. I wasn't a burden. I wasn't dramatic. I wasn't lazy. I was unwell. And instead of love, I had been handed ridicule. But now the ridicule no longer stuck to me. It clung to them. The days that followed were strange. Whispers circled through the family like a storm no one wanted to face. Aunts who once laughed behind their hands now sent me messages. "I'm sorry, Alina, I didn't know." Cousins texted clumsy apologies. Even Grandma Rosa sat beside me and admitted, "I should have pushed harder for you. I should have made them listen." And my parents. They tried to pretend nothing had happened. My father buried himself in work, speaking to me only in clipped practical tones. My mother busied herself with chores, her smiles brittle, her eyes darting when they landed on me. It was easier for them to ignore the truth than to face it. But their silence didn't hurt me anymore. It revealed them. Daniel avoided me altogether. For someone who had built his reputation on being the charming one, the golden boy, it must have been unbearable to realize his jokes had curdled into cruelty. Sophia, on the other hand, tried once to corner me in the hallway. "Alina," she whispered, her eyes wet. "I didn't mean you did," I cut in. My voice was calm, not cruel, just steady. "You meant every word. You enjoyed every laugh. And now you have to live with that." Her tears fell, but I didn't comfort her. I wasn't her shield anymore. Weeks later, I had my first proper medical appointment. Dr. Cole connected me with specialists who ran real tests, not dismissive glances, not rushed checkups, but careful patient evaluations. They confirmed it. POTS. Finally, a name. Finally, validation carved into medical records instead of brushed aside like excuses. Treatment began slowly. Medication, hydration strategies, adjustments to my daily life. Progress wasn't perfect, but every step forward felt like reclaiming a piece of myself I had lost. For the first time, I felt like I had a future that wasn't just about surviving humiliation. And with each step, my voice grew stronger. Looking back, I realized something. Justice doesn't always come with slamming doors or fiery revenge. Sometimes, justice comes quietly, in truth that cannot be ignored. In a single sentence from a stranger who saw what those closest to you refused to see. My family had mocked my illness, turned my suffering into a punchline. But when the doctor spoke up, the mask slipped. Their cruelty was exposed, not by me alone, but by undeniable proof. And I learned that my voice, shaky, trembling, even tearful, was still powerful. That truth doesn't need to be loud to cut deep. That the weight of shame is only heavy if you choose to carry it. Now, when I look at myself in the mirror, I don't see the weak one or the family joke. I see a survivor. I see someone who fought not just illness, but erasure and won. My family will live with the knowledge of what they did. I, on the other hand, will live with the knowledge that I finally stood up. And that is enough. Because the truth, once spoken, can never be mocked again. And that was my story. If you felt the weight of it, if you've ever been underestimated, or if you've ever dreamed of justice finally being served, then you know why I had to share this with you. Don't forget to like this video if you stayed with me to the end. It tells me these stories matter. Hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell because I have more real, raw stories of betrayal, revenge, and redemption that you won't want to miss. And if this story spoke to you, drop a comment below. Tell me, have you ever been mocked or doubted, only to prove everyone wrong? I read every single one,